What's up? What's up? What's up? Man, we are back live. Jerron Tyler here of Posterity.ai. Checking in with you guys, man, just to drop a bit of knowledge, bit of insight, personal understanding, revelation that I've personally gone through. In this video, we're going to talk about bankruptcies. I've heard a lot of people are talking about bankruptcies. As much as the economy is quote unquote getting tighter, if you will, and a lot of people are just simply uneducated on bankruptcies. And so I'm not going to go super deep into the nooks and crannies as much as I'm going to give you guys just my personal perspective coming from the automotive space as well as the mortgage space, and then now even in the business credit and funding space. And so first question, should I file for bankruptcy? Should I file for bankruptcy? Well, before we even go into that, I want you guys to know that there are three different types of debt. There's household debt, there's corporate debt, and then there's government debt. And I oftentimes, because man, I don't even know how to say this sometimes. I'm in ministry. I love the Lord. I love reading the Bible. I believe that God has a plan, a purpose for every human's life if they would submit their heart unto him. And so a lot of times in the past, I would do videos and content just encouraging believers. But this is even for those who have not accepted Christ, because this is a practical matter as well. Encouraging you that your debt is not the end. It is not over, right? One of the things that has always helped me and helped a lot of my clients, specifically like in the mortgage industry, people would like freak out when their taxes and insurance went up. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. My world is ending. It's over for me. Just to like get the revelation that everybody in your neighborhood is actually experiencing the same thing. And the trick of the enemy is to try to get you to believe that you're the only one going through the trial and tribulation that you're going through. And so when you begin talking about this whole concept of debt, it's imperative that you see the whole picture. You are not the only one struggling. You're not the only one suffering. You are not the only one that has $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 in debt. Some of you guys watching this video may only have $15,000 in debt, right? And one of my tools that I utilize to help me overcome anything is this concept that the Holy Spirit gave me, and that's being able to minimize what most people maximize. Most people will maximize, $15,000 in debt, $25,000 in debt, where there's somebody else out here that has $25 million in debt. And so if you would just allow the Holy Spirit, if you would tap into a new mode, if you will, that allows you to see a thing differently, all of the stress, the anxiety, the burden would be relieved. So that's the point number one. You want to be able to understand that you are not the only one going through what you're going through. Now, when you start talking about this whole concept of bankruptcy, people reach out to me all the time. Is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Does it make sense? I'm going to give you guys my first instinct. Specifically for business owners, I am not a huge fan of business owners filing for bankruptcy because of this reason. Again, I don't hate you. I don't think that it's a horrible idea. Hear me loud and clear. I don't think that it's a horrible idea. But Jerron Anthony Tyler, is not a huge fan of an entrepreneur filing for bankruptcy, simply because I believe that, man, as God's creation, especially as entrepreneurs, man, you are a professional problem solver. I don't believe that there's any solution that's off limits for you. And I say this all the time, but I heard Bishop Jake say something, and I was actually speaking to a very prominent entrepreneur in the DC area earlier this week, and they both said something similar. Bishop Jake said, budgeting is easy. You either do two things. You either cut expenses or figure out how to make more money. The entrepreneur I was talking to this week said, identically the same thing. He said, as an entrepreneur, every quarter, you should be navigating, analyzing, and kind of taking a deep dive into areas by which you can cut expenses, but then also areas where you can make more money. And so I just believe as an entrepreneur, there are no limits to solutions. That is my preference. That is my perspective. That's my fortitude, that nothing can stop me. I can overcome any and everything. I don't care if it's 25,000 brick walls in front of me. I'm going to make it through. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to figure out this enigma, this puzzle. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. Again, that's my perspective. That's perspective number one. But again, I am not mad at you, nor do I think less of you, nor is it the worst thing in the world for somebody to do it as a second option. Well, Jerron, what would, put me in good standing, for you to say, oh, this is a second option? Okay, well, again, talking about the entrepreneur at this point, let's say you're in a space where you just truly believe that, man, I am completely in over my head right now. I have a government contracting business. I have a trucking company. I have a construction business. You have a business that is bound by the fluctuation of the economy, right? We had an $800,000 contract with the federal government, and funding was cut. We had a trucking company, and 17 routes were cut, and we had to lay everybody off, right? Your means to making your money is predicated on the economy. That right there is what I would call something that's acceptable. Again, this is just me giving you my perspective. But all right, we lost 17 routes. We lost two $800,000 contracts. Like, the source of our income was based on somebody else's, beating of the gavel, if you will. In that instance, I'm in a situation where I really don't have no choice but to go bankrupt, or I just have to switch my business model. But again, if I'm switching my business model, then all right, I might as well bankrupt this situation or this debt and then go start over again. Now, the next coincidence or concept by which I would say that going bankrupt would be permissible, if you will, is, I've looked at a lot of profiles in my journey of being an entrepreneur, salesperson, consultant, etc. And I remember looking at a profile one time. There was a young lady. She made $60,000 a year, but she had $60,000 in debt. Now, she was W-2. She was receiving W-2 income. So with that, you get your taxes taken out up front. Taxes are taken out. Medicare, your medical insurance is taken out. Your dental, all of these different things, her 401k. And so after, everything was taken out of her check, liquid cash, she might have been touching about 40 grand a year. So you're touching 40 grand a year. You're $60,000 in debt. You're a grown woman. You have children. You're a single parent. And outside of your job, you don't have any other sources of income, nor are you entrepreneurial. In that instance right there, it makes all the world of sense to go in and file for bankruptcy. Okay, if you are somebody that may be a little older in age, or maybe you're not older in age, right? But you just don't feel like, man, I got that extra oomph in me, right? I don't feel like the power. I don't feel like the desire. I don't wake up, man, wanting to cut off the head of the giant, right? I'm in a space where, I kind of just want to, a clean slate, right? Again, I'm talking about my perspective of somebody that's just gonna go out and get it, versus also, considering the person that's saying, dude, I don't really have that in me right now. Like, I owe these people $70,000, I owe them $102,000. And if I could just go the bankruptcy route, man, I'd rather do that and start over again. Okay, so again, I just gave you guys two different perspectives, if you will. My initial go-to. I'm not mad at the second option, but my initial go-to is, man, I'm gonna fight through. I'm gonna press through, and I am going to come up with some of the greatest solutions that have ever been discovered upon mankind. I'm going to lock myself in a basement. I'm going to lock myself in a coffee shop. I'm going to make 100 phone calls a day. I'm going to network with who I need to network with. I'm going to talk to who I need to talk to. I'm going to read. I'm going to study. I'm going to apply like a absolute madman. I'm going to give it every single thing that I have, because I just believe. I believe that you have to have a certain component, a certain level, man, a certain desire, man, a certain almost stubbornness, if you will, a certain level of faith and belief if you're going to be an entrepreneur. You gotta have it. It's the grit. It's the I don't know how I'm gonna get it done, but I'm not gonna stop until I get it done. Right? And so that's what I operate off of. But again, if you are in a situation and your income is bound by a decision that was made in the economy, right? You went out and started schools, right? And you started a couple of chartered schools and the funding got cut, right? I mean, there are certain instances where you're just going to have to, it just makes sense. But if you have a business that is not predicated on somebody else's decision, right? I'm going to figure out and I'm going to press through and master my craft like never before to navigate through. So, man, I hope that helps you guys out a tad bit. I'll give you another concept behind my reasoning when it comes to bankruptcies. So, when you start talking bankruptcy, your bankruptcy has to be discharged for at minimum, I want to say a chapter 7, maybe 1 year, and a chapter 13, maybe 2 years. I may have them mixed up, but your bankruptcy has to be discharged for at least a year. If we were to stretch it out, at least 2 years, right? And then you can go and get you a FHA loan. So FHA loans versus conventional loans. And so with that being said, if you're somebody that's looking to buy a house sooner than later, then going BK probably wouldn't be the best option. If you're somebody here's another good one, somebody that has SBA financing, right? So you have Small Business Administration financing, the SBA went and guaranteed a product for you at a specific bank. If you have that, I would highly recommend that you prioritize paying that debt off, because once you default on government financing, it is going to be extremely difficult, almost impossible, but very difficult to ever get financing again. And so that is something else, understanding how to prioritize the debt that you have is very important to understand, because let's say you have, a $35,000 card with, your national bank, you got a $10,000 card with a credit union. And let's say you got 5 personal credit cards with some community banks. All right, cool. But then you come back and you also have a $25,000 line of credit through the SBA. Well, if you bankrupt that, then it's going to be tough as pulling a giraffe's tooth out to try to get that financing with the SBA again. So it's just things that you need to consider. And perhaps these things either apply to you or they don't apply to you, right? But just things that you want to consider. Now, very lastly, I want you guys to understand that my concept of not going bankrupt is predicated on just me being a bull. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer. Period. I'm not taking no for an answer. I don't care what challenges come my way. I'm not taking no for an answer. And also understanding what it does to your financial stack. If you're somebody that already got, $500,000, $600,000, $1 million in unsecured debt, unsecured meaning like credit cards, lines of credit that are not attached to anything, right? That's like you bankrupted that, and it's like, you got to rebuild again, right? So a lot of things that you want to kind of keep in mind. But the benefit to a bankruptcy is I get the opportunity to wipe all my debt out, right? I get the opportunity to wipe all my debt out, and I have to go through this quote unquote grueling process. A lot of times people are afraid of it because they're like, it's embarrassing, right? But people utilize it all the time. I keep throwing this in there because, again, I'm not saying that you're the scum of the earth, you're the worst person on the earth. I'm just giving you my perspective. Like, I want to figure it out. But people utilize BKs all the time. People utilize them to be very strategic. And so if you're in a situation right now where you're like, man, I want to start over. Like, I want to start over and I don't want to have to deal with this anymore, then, man, have at it. Right? You can always rebuild. You can always recover. People do it all the time. Again, my perspective on life, man, once you understand that nothing in the earth is new. There's a scripture in Ecclesiastes. I want to say it's Ecclesiastes or Proverbs, but it's King Solomon. King Solomon, the wisest, richest man to ever live, obviously before Christ. But he's like, man, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's happening has been before, right? So don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. If you have to go that route, if you think it's the best decision to go that route, one of the things that I love about my positioning and even doing this video right now is that it's unbiased, right? Like, I'm not tied. I'm not under anybody's umbrella. I don't sell. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to try to represent you, as you go through your bankruptcy, or, like, I don't have no attachment to it. I'm just kind of pouring out my perspective and my opinion along the way of the BK. Again, I believe that you can use everything for your good. Everything gonna work out for your good either way. But I do like the concept of you trying to max out the situation and figure it out first. But if you feel like, man, your hands are tied, you've done every single thing that you possibly could, and you just don't see how on paper it's gonna make sense for you to try to overcome that, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in debt, then hey, man, file it and keep it moving. You can bounce back even stronger, and you don't have to worry about trying to continuously pay something that you do not have. You technically don't have the funding for it. Again, I'll just touch on this one last time. I was consulting a young lady as she was going through her process and to try to buy a home, and she was making $60,000 a year. After taxes and insurance and everything was taken out, she may have been touching about $45,000, right? And so that's liquid on top of all of your expenses. And that way, she was not an entrepreneur. She did not have any zeal, desire, or fortitude to go out and create the world's largest, craziest business. And so in that instance, it made sense. Hey, you need to file this ASAP. right. And so again, looking at the difference between somebody that's in business versus somebody that's working a job and really doesn't have a desire to go out and create income. I believe as an entrepreneur, you can go out if you put together the right plan, have the right strategy, you believe, connect with the right people, and you have the right expertise and have the wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and discernment as to how to navigate it, then you can make $100,000 next month. Right? You can make $1 million next month. There is no limit. The only limit is on what we think. And so, man, I just wanted to do that quick video. We've been dropping a lot of videos on here for you guys. Man, just pouring out insight. Again, I guess I should say this on the YouTube video. This video is for informational purposes only. I'm not advising anybody to go any which way outside of the fact that I'm just pouring out, man, my perspective and my heart. So thank you guys for tapping in. Jerron Tyler again with Posterity.ai, an AI-powered business credit platform that causes entrepreneurs to align with the most accessible funders in the country. Man, stay tuned, stay locked in. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.